Hi, welcome to the SAT OG practice test number 3. And here for today's video is the math section with calculator. So just for a brief essence of the math section with calculator, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be easier because of the calculator. It doesn't mean it'll be harder because of the calculator. It basically means that it's the same math skill it requires from the College Board or whatever application. And the calculator is just another way of, recognizing yourself using some complicated technology or whatever. So, before you dive into the explanation part, I would really like you to spend an hour or as you can see, 55 minutes to do the whole section yourself and then listen to the explanation, because I would think it would be the most beneficial way for you to learn how to do this independently instead of relying on explanation and other stuff. So yeah, and as you can see right here, and all the black pen will be, as you can see here, is all my thought process when I was doing the problem myself. And for the green part, which I'm about to use, as you can see right here, is what I'm going to teach, or some important stuff, or some very some things I want to highlight. And red stuff is some important stuff I would write down, or I would circle, or in parentheses, that I really want you guys to recognize that, to notice that, because that would be some important skill that you could use for the exam. So yeah, let's dive into it. So for the first question, it's very easy. Distance, as you can see right here, distance time graph. So what does it mean by distance and time? So when distance plateau, like it does right here, it basically means that he or she is not moving. This person, this object is not moving. So when it's not moving, the distance will not be changing. So, and for this question, it asks about what is the closest time she finished lunch and continue her bike. So we had to mark finish and continue. So what does it mean by that? So it means it's right here. It's the point here when she continued her journey. This Marlene person continued her journey. Instead of she stopped and just chill and had her lunch, have some sandwiches, and go on to her journey. So this is the point we have to recognize that. So and there's another graph. So let me go a little bit off track. Another graph is velocity versus time. So if velocity has a plateau, it basically means that this person, this object, is not changing his or her speed. It's not changing their velocity. So there are no acceleration, but they're still moving in a constant speed. So let's get back to this question. So how can you see that what time this point leads us? You can just draw a straight line down here, and definitely not 12:40. You see that she's still riding at 1:10. That's when she approximately stopped, paused, and 2. That's when she's at the farthest place from her home, or her camp, whatever. So yeah, the answer is C. And for number 2, this type of question is generally asking about, okay, what is the probability? What is the probability that choosing this particular part object from all the blah 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 they're talking about? So the important stuff is to identify what is in what. What I mean by that is, you can see this phrasing. What is the probability that the winner will be either a female under age of 40 or male under 40 or older? So here is the numerator of the fraction, because they are selecting a female under 40 or a male over 40. So what is the pool? So what is the denominator? So for numerator, I'm just going to mark it here. There's the numerator. What is denominator? Denominator, they said here. The contest winner will be selected one random. So what does it mean by that? It means that everyone. So it's 25 over here. So it's 25 over 8 plus 2. Or just stuff I write it here. So as you can see that I simplified it a little bit as go to 2 or 5, but since there are no choice of that, so you just click whatever is comfortable or whatever is suitable to the question. And for number 3, so this type of question, if you see that a lot of wordings go around for the choices, you can see it here, right? A bunch of words. You can just skip, may not skip, but try to catch the numbers. And the question is about general trend. So you can just, you can draw a line or whatever, just follow this and draw like whatever, and draw what I drew, and just read through the choices carefully because they might do some tricky stuff to you. So question A, choice A, sales generally increase each year. Does it? Or did it? Not necessarily, because it decreased over time, and you can see this pretty bad trend, so that's probably a no. And decreased each year since 1997, so this is in 1997. Does decrease? Nah, it's increased a little bit. Maybe, they hopped up on the billboard or something. They're good, so it's wrong. And for C, increase in the 2000 generally decreased, so 1997 plus 3 is 2000. Here is the year, and you can see that it was at its peak. So yeah, it's pretty right. It sounds right. So just remain steady? Not really. It's some bad album probably. So answer C. So for question 5, you can see that in this question, approximately 7% junior, 5% into this honor society, and they have, excuse me, they give you the number of juniors and seniors, and they're asking what's the total number right here of junior senior who inducted to National Honor Society. So you basically just, it's 7% of juniors, so it's 562 times 7%, which is about 0.07. The same thing. And when it's a total number, so you just plus them together, and it's the same thing as I did a little math here myself. And so in this particular question, you would definitely use a calculator, right? But don't use the calculator as you're going through. Like, don't use it right here. Like, you do, oh, what's 562 times 0.07? You just get an answer here. And then you get an answer here, then you plus them together. Don't do that. That's a waste of time. Because when you do that, it would take your train of thoughts away. So you want to list out the calculations, and then you do all the math stuff. Leave all the math stuff to the calculator, so that you can get an answer immediately to choice B, instead of do it one by one, and you need to constantly checking. Oh, did 562 match with 7 or 562 match with 5? Because there are just a bunch of numbers going on. Okay, seems like I skip a question, so we're gonna do this together. So, some values of linear functions. So, notice this linear and defines f. So, you can draw a graph. So, 1, -2 is probably right here. 2, 1. 3, 4 is about this. So, it would definitely not be A, because the graph. I would go with B or C because of the slope, but we'll see about that. So you just plug it in 1, plug it in 1, gives you -2, plug in 2. So it's not correct. So how about C? So you have 1, -2, you have 2. That gives you 1. So the answer is C. Yep, you just plug it in. So for this type of question, you generally draw this out, and you can see that the general trend. So you can immediately, I'm not saying most 100%, but 90%, you'll eliminate A and D because the slope is not right. If it's n minus 3, they would increase at constant speed. Can you see it's 3 times? So you just go to 3. Go to C. And for number 6, so this is a very typical polynomial question. You just plus them together and just be careful with the sum or difference because that would get you tripping. So as you can see that I just write them out together in a decreasing power order. So that's the highest power square first power constant. And just add them together and you find the answer and you click A. So this question is also easy solving the equation. So just be careful that to make sure to switch the fraction when you are dividing and just put them on top because literally you immediately will think of canceling the 3 and 4 over 5 which they clearly gives you, but it is not correct. So just be careful because think about that. This is a college entrance exam. This is standardized test. They will not let you get off so easily, right? If they just let you canceling stuff out, it's middle school math. It's not high school math. So if you think the answer is too easy, maybe think twice and you go find whatever you did wrong. But if you think that you did everything perfect and the answer just accidentally worked out very well, that's good too. Yeah, that's good news. So for this part, so as you can see, it's a linear function, right? It's high school students per classroom, and y represent. Just make sure you understand what they represent. The average number of students per classroom, the next number is a year, and 0.56. So that is clearly the slope, right? So if it's a slope, it means whatever is increasing, whatever is decreasing. So we can just cross out some of the choices. Total number, wrong. There's nothing. Nobody mentioned total number in this. The average number, there is average number, but if the average number is 0.56, then why do they need a function? So it's wrong too. The estimated difference between average number of students per classroom in 2010, 2000, that doesn't even make sense. What do you mean difference? You have to minus something. There are no minus, just a slope. So as you can see, we see the word increasing, roof per year, and it's all correct. So yeah. And for this part, so for this question, you always want to use ratio. You don't want to calculate out the velocity or the speed of this guy, Nate, because it's clearly that you cannot, the 25 cannot be divided by 13.7. It has to be an infinite decimal. So what does it mean by that? So you don't want to do 25 over 13.7 and what's the answer to that, and you do also and a reminder, it's minute, so make sure I'm gonna write it over here. Sorry, make sure to have the unit correct. Unify the unit. Okay, that's pretty ironic. So 4 minutes, so that's to be 240 seconds. So you don't want to do, what you don't want to do is find this estimated decimal and times that. No, absolutely do not do that. That is wrong. Because then you would get into a loophole where it might not work. Because it might get too similar and your answer is not working. Because in this case, it's 400 and 700. That's pretty far from the correct answer. But in some cases, from what I've done, it's getting tricky because they sometimes only have a 10 unit difference. When I say 10 unit, that means that 160, 400, 170, 180, 190. So they only have 10 units difference, 10 difference in them. So whatever stuff you did right here, it will have a huge impact on the final answer. So please do the ratio as I did here, you find the 25, the distance over time, and that's your velocity, and it should be the same speed that this guy had, which is the distance as I marked x over time. So it should be the same. And then in this one, you can use calculator to find x, no problem. So for 10 and 11, you can see that all of those blah 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 stuff is going on, but all you have to do is mark the equation. And don't even, I mean, it's not physics exam, so you don't have to care about the units here, but in others, you should. So, here we go. So, for me, I would just find the equation and just find whatever letter is mean in this situation and just go to the question. Because the question is usually more straightforward than the description itself. So, it didn't want to ask the weight of an object on Mercury with a mass of 90 kilograms. So we know the mass. That is the little m. And I want to know the weight. So weight is a question mark. So we know, that's why they told us the equation. And the weight, we don't know. But we know the mass. But G, we're going to find it here. Right here. That's all the G's it have. So Mercury is 3.6. So you just got 90 kilograms times 3.6. And then you got the answer. And so for this one, it is, remember, it is not the ratio. They don't have the same gravity. So you cannot use the ratio tricks, the ratio trick that we did. So pretty general thought process is to find the mass. So you have the newtons. Then now you know, I mean, everybody should know that Earth has 9.8 or 10 meters per second acceleration. So you just find the mass using this equation, which is weight divided by mass. Weight divided by g is mass of the same object. And you use this mass to times this mass times whatever g is equals to 170, because that's what they ask for. So you know the mass, and you just use 170 divided by the mass. Now you get a g, so it should be Saturn. Yeah, and you can see that I just did mental math. I didn't even use the calculator. So, yeah, it's 15 kilograms, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And so for 12, one thing I would note is the 5 distinct 0. So what does it mean? It means that it would need to be different. You can't have this bouncing. So as you can see, let me just have an example here. This one is a bounce 0. You can see that it's bounce to the line and bounce back. So that means that there are two identical 0 at the same point. So that is not the one we want. So have five distinct 0 means how many times it hits the line and across the x-axis. So you can see 1, 2, 3, wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I guess I did something wrong here. It should be D. Sorry about that. So, yeah, I guess I didn't really count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are six distinct 0 here. So, very sorry. And number 14. So the hotel meeting room is 0.2 per minute. This is always the time to focus on unit. I'm going to write this up again. So which of the following equations is in hours? You see, they even underline this for you. So how do you transform from hours to minute? So you have 1 hour what if H equals 1? And how many minutes is there? You times 60, right? So whatever hour there is, you just times 60. So now you just get to whichever question times 60. So it's here, it's here. And 0.2, what does it mean by dividing 0.2? Doesn't mean anything. So the answer will be A. So, and also for this type of question, I'm sorry, but you have to just read through the description and the answers, the choices, and find the right answer. Really sorry. So as you can see that, okay, with poor eyesight, 300 participants are random. Half of them have X, half of them do not. And they said treatment X has significantly improved eyesight as compared to did not receive significant. So it's pretty obvious. So let's see A. Drastically improve eyesight of people who are poor eyesight. Okay, that sounds right. Could be a perfect conclusion. And treatment X improve eyesight better than all the other available treatment. So they didn't mention the other treatment. They didn't mention Y and Z and how is the comparison and contrast of those treatments. So that is definitely wrong. And it will prevent on anyone who takes it. Maybe it's correct, but those absolute words. Be very mindful about those absolute words. Those anyone, everyone, everything. That's generally wrong, unless they stated in the question. So anyone, maybe, but no, not in this case. Cause substantial improvement in eyesight. So maybe, but they said it's with poor eyesight. So that basically means that if you cannot see stuff like 30 feet away, they might be able to help you. But if you've already had a good eyesight, they may not help you. So, and also might be mindful about this will, like those definite words, because that usually is not correct. So for 16, we're almost halfway. Bear with me. So which of the following values X? So what does it mean? So it means that the f of X equals negative, g of X. So that's why they can add themselves to 0, right? So where is the point that they both have the same absolute value but opposite to each other? Where's the point? As you can see, it's right here. Right? They both are 2 units away from 0, but they're opposite. So, and you can just count 1, 2. Okay, -2. Bingo. And for this one actually took me a couple of minutes to read through the question because it's quite confusing. They are asking for something supplied, that's why it's S, and something demanded of the product. And for this question, it's asking about supplied, so that's why I underlined supplied market is changed by 10. So usually, for me, I would like to plug it in because it is the most straightforward stuff you can understand. But if you plug it in letters or some substitutes, you will understand, but it will be harder for you to conceptualize, to visualize this problem. So as you can see that I put it's a supply, so I use supply equation. So 1/2 p plus 40, and it's increased by 10. So let's say the before the price is 0, so the price will just be 40, right? If p equals 0, S of p will equal to 40, right? But if the price increased by 10, so if p equals 10, so that's it increased 10 right here. So S of p is 45. 45. So now you can choose that whatever is 50, 10 is wrong. And it's a decrease or increase. So as you can see, when it's increase, it increase. So the answer is B. And for this one, the quality of product, so let's see, supplied equal to demand. So basically mean that S of P equals to D of P. So you just set the equation like I did, same stuff, and you solve them out and you get P's 120. So this guy, oh, not this guy, this product is, so these are not important. So what important is 1 ounce, 1 ounce can cover up 6 fields. So if a football has an area, so 1 field equal to 3 over 4. Remember, always transform it into a real, into a real fraction, into a fraction without the integer. Acres. So 48 ounces. Times 48. 48. And 7 times 48 is whatever number it is. And 1 field is this. So 7 field. So 7 field is how many acres? It's 28 acres, right? So basically 1 ounce that you use, you have 28 over 3 field acres. So you times 48 times 48, then you got this one. So blah blah blah. Number 20, heart rate after each training. So each swim. The line of best fit data, so which is right here. It's actual heart rate. How many beats less than rate predicted of best line fit. So they're asking about that took 34 minutes. So it should be around this line. You can see it's a little black dot over there. And what is the predicted heart rate? So it should be 150, right? You can see my red dot over here. And here is the one. Here is the heartbeat that Michael actually has. So you can see what's the difference. What is the unit of each block? As you can see, it's 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it should be 2. So his heartbeat should be around, should have 2 beats less than the predicted heartbeat. So the answer is B. And for 21, as long as you see exponential growth, as soon as you see exponential growth, you always cross out the initial. So you can see each successive year initial savings, wrong. Initial saving, whatever that is, wrong. And each successive year, 110 is added to 100 is added to the value. I don't care. I want the compound interest. So each successive year want a current value. So we want the current value. We want that compound interest. We want that money, you know? So if you said initial, you just decline. You just go see the question and you said, I don't want initial. I want the current value. I want more money. So for 22, is x is 50% more than the sum of other two numbers. So as you can see, I did a little equations over here. So sum of 3 numbers. So sum of 3 numbers is going to be x plus whatever is 855, and the sum of the other 2 numbers, so this parenthesis, is 855 minus x, right? So that's the sum of that. So here, now you can see that this is the sum of the other 2, and it's 50% more. So that means that this x is bigger. So x is bigger than the parenthesis. So that's why we need to put the 50% on the left side of the equation and let it times 1.5 to give yourself the x. And then you just solve for x, and the answer should be here. So this one is a little bit tricky. So at first, you may not be able to know what to do. But what is sine and cosine? As you can see, I wrote it here. It is the same thing, right? It's the opposite side over the hypotenuse, right? Opposite side, as you can see, I draw a right angle triangle. It's opposite side over hypotenuse. So, what does that mean? What does that give us? Well, it gives us that it's the same side of the triangle, and therefore it and also and therefore only the right angle triangle can make this work. If it's any other different triangle, it will not work. So therefore we know that this angle, angle A plus angle B, is equals 90. You can see I did here. So let me repeat. If you have, you know that it's the same thing, right? Sine A and cosine B has the same side. And you can just draw a triangle with a right angle. And you can see that the A and B, you plot them together, is equals 90, and therefore you can solve for the K, which is over here. And Mr. Cole, okay, what are you doing? So he said he gets 3 milliliter, he will find that are left over. He's 4 milliliter, he will need an additional 25 milliliter. So he just said how the number of students as x. So if it's 3x, so 3 students, 3 milliliter each students, right? So 3x equals to whatever milliliter minus 5, because he will have 5 left over. Remember that. If he needs more, give him more. If he has something left over, just take it away. So that's what I did. You take it away for leftover, and he needs it, you just add it. So now you just solve for x and answer 26. So for this one is the one I was talking about not using the calculator for every step of the question, and you just use all of them at once. So if you don't know the equation for the cylinder or the cone, you just can go up to the page and find the equation. And so here is the equation of the cone. Actually, I would say 2 cones, because these are the identical cones. As you can see that they have the same radius, and the same height. So that's why I put 2 over here instead of 1. So the original equation should be 1 over 3 times pi r squared h. But since that times 2, there are 2 identical cones. So I just put this value over here, and I do not put it. You do not solve it. You leave it until the last. And right here is the cylinder. As you can see that I just put them together. And for this step, I move this answer right here. I move this answer and move it to here. So you can see the 2 over 3 pi times 25 times 5, and this is pi times 25 times 10. And now you solve all of the stuff at once. Now is the time for you to do a calculator. So normally, what I would do is I hardly use calculator, and it only for the big numbers, because it will save time. I promise you it will save time. So the answer is this one. So for this one, it is asking about 2k and curve to pass through the origin, the line with those points pass through the origin, and what's the possible value. So in this case, as you can see, I drew a picture. So if it passed through the origin, what does it mean? It means it's a linear function. It means it's a linear. It doesn't have any intercepts. Well, it does have x and y, but it falls into the same point, which is the origin. So you just put y equals mx, and you just plug those number in. So what is the y of first one? It's k, right? K equals 2m, since x is 2. And for second one, it's 32 equals km. And then you solve this equation system, and now you can find the k. So for question number 27, Remember, they already put percent here. Remember that. So you don't have to leave it at percent. You only need to write the number. So what I mean by that is that a 10% and increase with a p%. So we want to know what is equal to each other. So you want to know what two stuffs are equaling to each other. So what is equivalence? So we know that somebody is increased, but the length is greater than 10% and decreased width by p%. And the whole area is decreased by 12%. So now we know that somebody times 12%, or somebody minus the 12%, is the area after alteration. So then let's see, what's the area before the alteration? So if we have length is x, width is y, then area before is just xy, right? But it says that it's decreased the area of triangle by 12%. So who's 12%? It's gotta be the original 12%, because if it's the decreased 12%, it will work. So decreased by 12%. So you just put 0.88 since that's 12% mean. And you just put the alteration in. So for x, what did it do? It increased by 10%. So increased by 10%. And decreased by p%. So you just do 1 minus p% y, and you solve. And you can see that xy can cancel out. Just they are all times each other, and you can just find a equation using p, and the answer is 20. So for this one's the same thing. It's pretty similar as the one we did about the unit. I can't remember which question was that. But remember how I wrote unit? I'm gonna write it again. So here we go. As you can see that it said years. And it's every 20 years. So, not quite the same unit. So, they're asking for years, and that's every 20 years. So when you have the t years, let's see, you have 1 years, and you want to find whatever percent is decreased after 1 year is passed. So you should divide by 20, right? Because if you times 20, then that would be that doesn't mean anything. If the 1 year passed and you times 20, what does it mean? It means that it's 20 times faster. It means that it's 20% more. It means that it decreased 20%. I don't know, whatever. So when you divide it by that, you want to know what's this fraction, what's this percentage it decreased in this 20-year period. So now we just substitute 1 for t, and you can see that those two are wrong. So you just need to find, you have this one correct. But how about this? Since it decreased by 10%, so you will have 90% left after 20 years, right? So 90%, 0.9, the answer is D. And for question 29, it is a complicated question. So in this case, you will have to, so first of all, you need to underline stuff, like the 5 times right hand female, left hand, 9 times right hand male, left hand. And they told you that 18 left hand and 122 right hand students. So, what is the probability? of the right-hand students select at random is female. So what is the pool? Right-hand people, right-hand students, right? So right-hand students, we know that's 120, 122. But how many females are there in the right-hand pool? So right here, now we just need to pull out our favorite X. You see that X is right here. Do you know why I chose female right hand for X? Because that is the population we want. For me, I'm a very lazy person. So I just want the answer I got is the answer I need. I don't want to do any additional calculations after I went through so much trouble. So I would typically do X right here is what I need. And how many are left for right hand male? So 122 minus X. And they said there are 9 times as many right hand male. So that means right hand divided by 9 is left hand. And they said that 5 times in right hand female. So if X divided by 5 is the left hand female. So now you have all the 4 box checked. Now you can just plug it in. Since they said 18 left hand and 122 right hand. Now just put in a little equation. So what's the left hand female? X over 5 and what about male? 122 minus x over 5 is 18. Now you solve the equation, x is this, and you just put the number here for 122. And the answer is A. So for this question, it's, if you observe the question very closely, you can see that they all have same coefficients. And even the constant's the same. So what does it mean? It means that whatever B and C is changing, it will have impact. So it will not be the same line. So if B is C minus a half, so as you can see that I did something here, B is C minus a half. So here's the original, the second one. Let's mark it as 2, 1, 2, 1. 2 is C. I leave it there, no problem. And B is C minus a half. So here is our B. Now you just solve for y, right? Because we want the xy. You see, xy relationship. Now you find y is equal to c plus 7 over 2. Now you want to find x. So what is x over here? X is c minus 1 over 2 plus 7 if you solve this, right? And at first glance, you may not see what's the relationship, but you can see that they all have c over 2 and they all have 2 over 7. Same thing right here, right? It's all the same thing. So what is the last thing? Is negative 1/4, which is the same thing as negative 1 over 2, right? So when you know this, you know that, oh, x is less, 1/4 less than y. So here we go. Now we're into our favorite part. Free response. Okay, so for 31, 2 for students, 3 for adults, at least 11, but no more than 14. So this is a typical inequalities. So here, as you can see that Chris spent one adult ticket. So here's the 3 over here, and 2 for students. So we just said they already said this for you. X students ticket. So you just times 2x, and you said this inequalities, and you can solve them together. So typically, what I would do is you really want to choose a number in the middle. All right? And also, there are some questions that will ask about the borderline numbers. What does it mean by that? It means that if it's at least, if it's not at least, if it's not no more than, quote unquote, no more than, what if it's less? What is more than or less than? It means that there should not be an equal mark over here. There should not be an equal mark. there should not be an equal mark. But in this question, it does have an equal mark. So just be careful and solve the inequalities and you will get 5. And that's one of a number. You can put 4 or 5. This depends on you. And for this question, it's purely calculator question, right? There's no way you're going to add them together and divide them by 12. That's just, very time consuming. So, see, and right here, I wrote cal, so that's for calculator. So, they're asking about mean age. So, you just plus them all together. Plus, 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 plus. Okay, I'm not going to write all the pluses. And divide by 12. And now you get this answer. This is round nearest 10th. So don't forget that. For this question, so at first glance, I'll be guessing that it's a simplification question. So I would write them out. So first of all, I would expand the parentheses, leave them out, and distribute this in them. And remember to change signs, okay? Remember to change signs. And after this, you will have this format. Negative 5x squared plus 9x. And they want to know b is 9. So for this, it is also the same thing as the ratio trick we already did. You don't have to find the area of the square and the area of the sector and using the radians we have. You don't have to do that. So in this case, draw. Drawing is always helpful. So 5 pi over 4 is typical over 180 degrees. So you can see that I drew a little semi-square over there because I know that this is the angle they're asking for. So one little trick is that the area the asked area over circle area is equal to the given angle over 2 pi or 360 degrees or whatever they give you. It is also the same thing as, or I should just put given. It is also the same thing as given circumference over circle circumference. So just use it as an example. We already know that it's 2 pi, 5 pi, or 4, right? So what's the angle of a square? It's 2 pi, right? So you write 2 pi. And immediately I can just cancel this out. So they want to ask about the area of a sector. So you know the area of the sector, right? So the area of the sector is 360 degrees of the angle 5 pi times 4 over 4 pi r squared, right? And for the bottom part, it is the pi r squared, right? Just cancel them out. So since this is true, then we know that this ratio is equal to this ratio. So just calculate this out. So 5 over 4 times 1/2 is 5 over 8. Since they're just asking about fraction, they don't want you to calculate the actual area. Anyway, so for 35, this actually gets stuck. I got stuck, I have to admit, because the wording of this question is really weird. Let's see that what's the least value a store can receive for the 11th rating, and some people have an average of at least 85 for the first 20 ratings. So they're asking for the least value. So now we're thinking, so if all of the last 9 ratings are 100, they all got perfect. So what is the least for the 11th? So what is the worst rating it could get? So now we're thinking, okay, so for the first 10, it was 75. So you just 10 times 75, which is the total number, or total rating they got, total number of points they got. So now you have to plus the 11th rating, which is X, and another 900. Why is it 900? Because we are assuming that all the last 9 ratings, they all get 100. And therefore, then we will know that what is the least ratings they could get. I know it sounds very idealistic, but I mean, it's SAT. It's not ideal. So, we want to find the average. 20 greater than or equal than 85. Now you go through the steps and you find this. Now you get 50. But for this one, this is a simple inequality question since A and B lies in this part of the solution. Now you just find one thing to note: if they all have the equal mark, then you can do this equation over here. If they don't, things will get a little bit trickier, but normally they will not do that. So now you solve for the x, right here, 150, and you plug it in, and you got 750. So for the last one, you have average number of shopper in the shop at any given time, and note this equation. That would be a useful equation. And also, I'll write the last time unit. So, after you read through all of this stuff, they give you an example of like average 3 shoppers per minute and average of 15 minutes, and approximately there are 45 shoppers at any time. So now you get all the numbers like 85 shoppers per hour, an hour, and spends under 5 minutes in checkout line. So what is the average check? So how many shoppers are there in the store? So when you use this equation, you want to find the n. You know the R is 84, but it's per hour, so we want to divide by 60, which is 1.4 shoppers per minute. So we know T is 5, so you get them together and you get 7. And it's the same thing here. You want to find the n for new store, and you also notice that it's per hour, 90 shops per hour, so 90 divided by 60 is 12. 1.5 times 12 is 18. So they want to ask the percentage. So what's the percentage? Is 45 minus 18, right? Is how many less customers it's getting. So it's 27. So 27 over the original, over the 45 shoppers for the old shop is 60%. Thanks for watching.